If the Old Testament filled with God's Torah and the prophets still has relevance to the lives of Yeshua followers, and it most certainly does, how can I, as your teacher, or at least one of your teachers, not point out the obvious? Otherwise, what's the point of our diligent study if it has no application to our lives, our faith, our relationship with God? The Constantinian church leadership, meaning the everyday church leaders of today and of the past 1,600 years, represents the Gentile version of what is just described here about Jerusalem and Judah, but they're completely blind to it. Just as those priests and prophets in Zephaniah's day were blind to their blasphemy and heresy. As a group acknowledging the occasional exception to the rule, they do more than violence to God's Torah. They openly abolish it and then replace it with their own man-made ideas and regulations called church doctrines or article of faith or canons or catechism. Does Christianity actually have any idea of what God calls holy and common, or what God calls clean and unclean? Has the institutional church not hidden their eyes from God's Sabbaths and declared them no longer relevant or needed for Christians? In fact, to obey God's instruction, or any of God's Torah laws or commands for that matter, makes one an enemy of the church, because so very different, if not oppositional, are God's written doctrines versus various man-made doctrines supported by the church institutions. So it's pretty easy for us today to grab hold of what Ezekiel just said, or what Zephaniah's prophecy is stating, as a nearly perfect parallel and present image as to why God is about to pour out his terrible wrath on his own chosen people in his own holy city. It's gonna happen again in the end times. But now as then, God's warnings are denied and just batted away. I want to take that one step further. Those who have decided to abandon Gentile church doctrine and instead to adopt a more classical Judaism in its place, thinking it might be better, aren't much different. Judaism is not the pure embodiment of the Hebrew biblical faith any more than is Gentile Christianity. I acknowledge that it might in several instances be somewhat closer, but in the end it's based more on yet another and different set of doctrines of men found in Jewish law, sometimes called rabbinical law or Talmudic law, created by a system of rabbis who mix elements of biblical Torah with their Jewish rabbinical law. It's as much forbidden syncretism, idolatry, to mix human laws and commands with God's laws and commands as it is to mix pagan gods and their worship practices with the scriptural-based worship of Yehovah, of God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
For more teachings of real Bible study and to rediscover God's Word with Tom Bradford, visit Torah Class today on the web, streaming TV, or download the Torah Class mobile app.